So welcome back, Drifters. Today we're back in the garage working on the 67 Mustang, and what we're going to be doing is trying to get these floor supports in. Well, at least on the driver's side. I highly doubt I'm going to get the passenger side done this week, but we'll see. So right now what I have going on is I got this piece kind of propped up on the jack because I need to get this little tab knocked down because it's a little bit too high. And I'm going to leave these where they are because I know this is the correct height. And then we're just going to kind of adjust and try to get this thing to match to what the other side looks like over there, because this side over here is actually fitting where it should. So we're going to use that kind of as an example as to how we're going to get this one on here. So, should be fun. Okay, so I got it basically in there. This is just a mock-up, pretty much. I bent that little tab out of the way so that way it's sitting flush on top of the cross member that goes basically from the driver's side to the passenger side. Since we already knew that that was straight and good, we're basically using that as a guideline. As far as it being level, it's basically even on both sides. The only difference was when I was going side to side, I was getting a little bit off, and I couldn't figure out why. I was like, everything else was leveling out, and then I noticed something. So you can see there that it's in the center. It's not perfect, but it's close. So let's go over to the other side. So you can see this side's looking nice and level, but here's the thing. There's a little bit of play in this thing. So if I make it just like one way or another, it's going to adjust it. So it just depends on how it sits, because this thing is completely uneven. Like, it's been beaten up over the years, and it's just kind of messed up. So this is not a perfect representation of what's considered level, but it looks decent. But then you'll notice this one is slightly off. So I couldn't figure out why that middle one was off because I was laying it flat across, and technically it should be pretty level. But it turns out the metal thickness of the original ones was way thinner than the newer ones. I mic'd them, and the one was like 2.5 millimeters versus the other one, the OEM one, was like 1.7 millimeters. So technically it's never going to be perfectly level when I'm doing those two pieces because they're different thicknesses. So I think it's looking pretty good. I'm more worried about front to back right now as far as the level goes. I'm pretty sure that it's level going that way because it's sitting flush on top of the cross member. But yeah, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take that stuff off. I'm going to paint with some, basically it's weld-through primer. Well, let me go show you what it does. Okay, so this is the weld-through primer. I think it's called U-Pull number 2, which is just a copper weld-through primer. Basically what I'm using this for is just rust prevention, because there's going to be layers of metal in between each other that I can't get to after I weld it, and so I need to have it at least primered or coated in something to help prevent it from rusting through over time, because over time, water getting in there and stuff like that, we're going to end up with the same situation that we just had to do, and that was cutting out all this metal. Don't want to do that again. So that's where this comes in handy, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray this down. We're going to get everything nice and coated before we actually go and weld everything, so let this dry overnight, and then we'll just hit it in the morning and just kind of keep going from there. Okay, so fumes are pretty rough, but we got it in there. It's drying, so once that thing dries, we'll work on getting the new floor support in. I'm going to have to drill some holes in it to get it prepped, but yeah, we're going to continue that thing tomorrow, so let's do it. So as it turns out, I'm actually an idiot because the spray paint actually dries in 20 minutes, and I waited all night for nothing, so yeah, fun times. But the next thing we got to do is take the floor support and drill some holes in it because we got to do a bunch of plug welds, so that's what we're going to do now. Well, I just went through 3 batteries in my drill to drill a total of, what was that, 16 holes. So, yeah, I've got quite a few more to go, and I can't find my plug-in drill, so this is always fun. So I'm going to go try to find that and then finish this thing up. Well, let me tell you, takes a long time to drill a couple holes, but we got all the side holes. I need to check the bottom because I'm not sure how many were on the bottom side. So I'm going to figure that out. If I need to drill in here, I will. But this piece is pretty much ready to go. So, looking pretty good. Okay, so this is the floor support on the other frame rail, and you can see that it's basically flush with this. All these little dots here that I'm seeing are the original spot welds, and I'm looking under here, and there's a whole bunch of them on the bottom side because it lays completely flush. Problem is that the new piece, because it's thicker metal, I'm having a hard time getting it to actually sit flush on here. So, yeah, if I drill the holes in the bottom and I don't get it completely flush, then I just have holes in the bottom of the support, which is not ideal. So looks like I'm gonna have to do a little bit more fitment. So this right here is a spot weld. It's very hard to see on camera, but there are every couple inches there's one. Now on here you can clearly see where they are because it's all bubbled up from the rust that's trapped in between here. So I am gonna actually drill some holes in the bottom because we're gonna have to make this thing fit one way or another. But this is a tool that I didn't really get to show in that last time lapse. It's literally just a punch, but it's a spring-loaded punch. So when I go to do this, it basically puts like a little dent into the metal. And it makes it to where when I go to drill, I know that my hole is going to basically start in the right position. It's probably one of the best tools I got in terms of when it comes to like drilling stuff out, especially on metal. Because if you've never done it before, you know a lot of times the drill is just going to want to walk and move all around. And this just kind of helps keep it where you want it. At least if you don't have a drill press, because I don't. I have basic tools. And this is just like a cheap little thing and it works really well. Let me show you what it does close up so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. So literally what I'm doing is I'm just taking this piece and I'm gonna pick a spot where I wanna drill the hole. So we'll just go like right here. I just push down and it leaves that little dent inside there. And that is literally the starting point for the whole thing. So you can see that's the little dent that it's leaving behind. Basically just makes a little hole to where we can get the drill bit started. But yeah, that's basically it. So now I'm just gonna do this down here, drill these holes out, and then we'll get ready to weld this thing soon. So after spraying the paint inside the inner floor support, it's already dry. It's only been like 20 minutes. So yeah, I'm a fool. But anyway, what I gotta do now is basically clean up some of the parts of that cross member, get it ready to go, so that way when we put this thing on, I can get it in place and get it ready to be welded. Problem is, I think I'm gonna have to do it tomorrow because it's getting really late and I don't want to be making a lot of noise. And yeah, so here we go again. All right, it's the next day. Let's go get this sucker in there. So now what I need to do is I need to get this thing to where it's level basically front to back and make sure that we're in the right position, that we've got it completely on there, and then basically just weld this thing together. So I'm gonna take a few more measurements, make sure we're good, and then yeah, I guess it's time to zip this thing on. Okay, so what I got going on right now is I got that laser pointed directly over the center of the hole. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this file and I'm gonna put it down here and we're gonna see where the laser hits. So now you can see clearly that it's dead center and lined up. So that looks really good to me. So yeah, time to go weld this thing in. Okay, so there's something that may not be showing up on camera, but I'm seeing it when I'm welding. And it looks a little bit weird, and I think it's that weld-through primer. Now, I tried scraping some of that stuff off, but I really do think it's affecting the weld, because not only does the color look different when I'm welding, but the pool doesn't look right. And then also, I've noticed that there's been gaps. So I may have to grind this back and redo it. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in there and scrape out any of that primer that's in those holes, because I really do think it's affecting the weld. So in the future, I may not use that stuff on this, or at least try to grind it back a little bit further. Yeah, it's supposed to be weld through, but I'm not too sure at this point. So yeah, I'm gonna go do that real quick. So the crazy thing about this that you probably can't see is I'm having to do this thing like with my hand upside down. I could barely see inside there, and the smoke that's coming off of this thing is so toxic. Doing my best not to inhale any of it because I've gotten sick from it before. So yeah, I only got 2 more on the inside, and then I'm gonna do the top, and we should be good. There's the smoke. Woo! That shit is so toxic. That shit is so toxic, and I'm trying not to breathe that stuff in because it's pretty bad. Woo. Woo. Gonna burn my wood. Yeet. Oh, Jesus. Cool, gonna need a little bit of cleanup, but for the most part, look pretty good. Yeah, whatever you do, don't use wood for clamps. It's very bad. Almost had a fire, but we're good. Now that's one way to start a fire. So if you're wondering why I'm smiling, it's because this baby's in here. It took me forever to finally get it in there, but it's done, it's welded. All I need to do now is go back and I'm gonna grind down the welds a little bit, especially on the bottom side, because anytime you're welding upside down, the weld pool always likes to drop, so I've got like a few spots where it's a little low. I'll just grind it flat and we should be good to go. So our floor supports are good. The only thing that we gotta do now is the exact same stuff we've done on the other side. So yeah, that's gonna be fun. Okay, so after a little bit more grinding, we got this thing looking pretty dang good. So you can see inside here, this thing's looking nice and smooth. We got all the welds ground down. It looks real good. Everything's nice and level where it should be. In here on the underside is where there's gonna be a plate for the torque box, and there's gonna be an upper portion that runs up here later. So I wanna get this thing nice and clean. We'll get a nice thing of paint on there when we can. These welds here had to be ground down because this is where the floor pan's gonna sit, so this is all good to go. So I also ground these ones back as well, just because I think it looks a little bit cleaner when you don't see the big old lumps of weld. So yeah, it's safe to say we're actually making some progress, so feeling pretty good. The good news is this thing lines up perfectly with this side over here. I even measured the distance between the 2 center holes, and we're right where we should be. So this thing's looking really good. I think it's nice and clean. It sits right where it should, nice and level, and the best part is this metal is a lot thicker than the stock stuff, so this is way stronger. So huge thumbs up on this one. So another thing I wanted to show is just how well this thing was penetrating. You could see that it definitely came through on all sides. It's definitely working very well. And yeah, so we got good penetration all around, so that's definitely good. You can never have too much penetration. But anyway, that's pretty much all I got for you for this video. I know it's been kind of drawn out, a lot of the same stuff, and now the issue I'm running into is that I need to do basically the exact same thing on the other side. Now, it's probably going to take me approximately a week, maybe 2 weeks to do, so it's either I just do that off camera and then I come back to you guys in like a week or 2, or I film it if you guys are interested in seeing that, and I'll make another video about it. But I don't want to be too repetitive, so let me know down in the comments if you'd like to see that, if you'd like to see the struggles on the other side, how it goes. You know, I'm just curious so that way I know I'm not just like putting content out that you guys don't want to see. Because, you know, some of this is pretty repetitive. It's a lot of cutting, grinding, welding. That's a lot of what we're going to be doing for a while. But yeah, I had a great time. I hope you guys did too. And I'll be sure to see you in the next one. Just remember though, keep it nice and easy.